Welcome back, everybody. This is Ponnampi, Fun Games from a Funny Guy, and today we're going to be doing a few tutorials. Well, we're going to be doing specifically one tutorial. It's going to be the Design New World with Advanced Parameters. We're going to be going through this section here, through all the editing. This may be a couple, like 2 videos. I'm going to try to keep it to one, but if we can, do that, that's fine. If not, we'll edit it into 2. Alright, so to start things off, it looks like a lot of things here. And I have my own world set up, my own different things. What you're going to want to do is there's going to be a whole list of large island, large region, medium region, etc., all the way down. I set up a whole new one. I copy it from one and then just set it up. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit it. You know, all these parameters are the parameters that you would get with just the default world generation. What we're gonna do is go into the editor a little bit more and change things. So we're gonna hit E to go into edit, and you can see here um, the editor. So what we're going to do now, and this is all this information is thanks to the Dwarf Fortress Wikipedia site. This it made it was a lot of help in this when I first learned it. So we have the seed, which is it's a the seeds are if a fixed sort of algorithm that it uses to define the world. So we have no control over this. It's just best to leave it all these seeds blank for right now, unless you have a world where, let's say, you like the way of the land layout or something like that. You would use the seed and then enter in whatever the seed is and whatever. But we don't have that right now. We have embark points. This is best just to leave completely the same. That way you can have the same experience as you do with the default embarking. Excuse me. Otherwise, you can crank it up all the way to 10,000 in embark points, and that'll give you practically everything. But we're just going to. Whoop, forgot I had numlock off. Alright, we're just going to leave that as that for now. End year, you can go all the way from 2 being the earliest end year, or all the way to 10,000. And if you do that, your machine is just going to fry itself. What I usually keep it around 100. That gives you a chance to possibly exit the age of myth. Um, yeah. All right. Next, we have the population cap after civilization creation, and this determines the maximum possible population of civilizations, number historical figures alive at a given point, time during world generation. So what that means is, it's going to give the most historical figures that you could have during any point while it's generating the world. And right now it's set to 15,000, which is the default for it. Excuse me. Alright, next we have the site cap after civilization creation. And that's how many sites you can have after, like the maximum after the world is created. And this can be set, you can have no, absolutely no sites. Well, yeah, -1 is no cap, meaning it could you could have as many as you want. You could have 0, 1, or up to 100,000. I think this was at 1500, so we're just going to leave it at that. Next we have percentage beasts dead for stoppage. And this one, this is part of the beast control and everything. And this one really doesn't matter. Um, this refers to the smaller beasts um, and everything, like the forgotten beasts. So you can keep that at 80. That's fine. You can keep it lower. It, chances are, people are going to end up killing forgotten beasts throughout the years. So it's best to keep it up high. The higher amount of years you go. Next, we have the year to begin checking Mega Beast percentage. And this is, it's what year to check for how many Mega Beasts you have. And right now it's the year 10. But it checks to see how many Mega Beasts there are, and if the world has less than 4 Mega Beasts, then the world generation will stop and usually redo itself. It'll remake a new world. So it's like a stop feature right there, and it remakes. So, yeah. But there's usually a decent amount of Mega Beasts. You could set that up later. Alright, then we have call unimportant historical figures. Da, da, da. Alright, unimportant historical figures are people or creatures who suffer early deaths, never having offspring or never killing anything. So they're complete duds. They entered the game and they died right away, pretty much. They never did anything. So calling them is just getting rid of them. It's sort of not including them into the history, which you can keep it on or you could take it off. Keeping it on will actually save some FPS, some frames per second, and everything. It'll save some space. It's not going to take as long. It's not going to save all that information. It's just going to just cut it off. So you don't really need it. It's best just keep it on. So, alright, reveal all historical events. This is a setting. Setting this yes will allow access to all information about the history of the world in Legends mode. So it's already on yes as a default. If you set it to no, though, then you will have to discover historical information in adventure mode, or by instructing dwarves to make engravings. So if you turn this off, it will save space. It won't record everything. It may help with the FPS. If you're looking to do the gameplay itself and don't really care about the historical events that go on in the past, then turn this off. It'll save on FPS while world generating and everything. But I like having it on because I like going through and reading everything as we go. Alright, we have minimum elevation and maximum elevation. These are pretty standard. This one controls the range of terrain elevations that can occur in the world anywhere. After that, we have the elevation X variance and Y variance. These control how wildly things like elevation and rainfall can vary between adjacent map squares. For example, if these values are set to the maximum of 3,200, which right now they're at 800, but the maximum is 3,200 for the elevation, then you will end up with more very low areas right next to very high areas. So you could have mountainous areas right next to savannas and deserts and everything. It could be a mix. It would be a mess, especially during adventure mode. So this is one use at your yeah your leisure and everything. The number of X determines the east to west variance, and the number to Y determines the north to south variance. By setting these to really high value, you can create horizontal vertical bands or vertical bands of areas which are similar to each other. Um, yeah, so this is one you just want to kind of leave as it is. Unless, I mean, if you want to mess around with it a little bit, that's fine. It'll create more of a patchwork of small biomes instead of like one giant biome. Um, like you'll have, a whole mountain range over here. No, instead of that, it'll be patchworks of mountain ranges intermittent with like savannas, forests, stuff like that. It won't be just one uh, giant region. It'll be different subregions. After that, we have rainfall. Again, rainfall is just controls the amount of rainfall in each map square area. Setting this too high or the maximum or too low can make the formation of certain biomes impossible. Rainfall causes it to rain more in a given area, which can have various effects. So, I mean, if you have a desert with a lot of rainfall, that's if you have minimum rainfall, let's say to 80. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hold on. Let's say you have that set to 80 and the maximum set to 100. In a desert, that's just going to mess the whole thing up. It's going to make the sand heavy. You're going to end up having cave-ins all over the place, and you're not going to be able to survive in the desert. It's going to turn to mush. So it may end up turning to clay. So who knows? I mean, it's something. Give it a try. Do what you want. It may cause certain biomes to disappear. Also, the XY variance, like I said before, that determines the amount of patchwork you want. If you want like subregions of rainfall, you could have it more constant or more scattered. So the higher it is, the more scattered it is. The lower it is, the more constant it is. Oh, excuse me. Alright, next we have maximum temperature. This is self-explanatory as well. This just determines the temperature all the way from, negative 1,000. That would be freezing, I guess. Almost impossible for anyone to survive in. That would be set at one of the poles. And 1,000 would be just scorching. I think that'd be close to, lava temperature right there. But yeah, I mean, we have it set to 25 and 75. I think, these are the defaults, so I mean that's hot, I think. So I don't know. It's something to play around with as well. You have minimum and maximum, and also the X and Y variance, which creates the patchwork the higher it goes. Next, we have drainage, and drainage is one of those settings where changing the drainage parameters will change the way the water affected biomes are formed. So low drainage will contribute to the formation of lakes, rivers, and swamps. High drainage will cause water to sink into the ground rather than hit the surface. which is important to forming hills. Low drainage values have been reported to contribute to the foundation of thicker soil layers, where higher drainage values do not have as thick soils. So, it doesn't have like 3, 4 layers of soil, it'd just be rock at the top. So, this is one, if you change this one to, let's say, 80 or something like that, a lot of your biomes will have close to no soil to work with. All the water will sort of just drain right off. You have both of them. Let's say you have the max set to 20 or something like that. You're gonna have primarily forest biomes, no large hills, stuff like that. You're gonna have a lot of um, low biomes. Also, with the X and Y variance, creates the patchwork and all that. Next, we have volcanism, which is how many volcanoes can you have? Minimum being 0, maximum being 100. Like I said before, you can change this. You could have 80 volcanoes set at any given time. You could have, 100 volcanoes. And volcano variance is the patchwork. I would suggest having this one set low, just because you don't want a volcano in the next square from another volcano. Uh, Typically, I like to have a little bit of variety with biomes with volcanoes, but that's up to whoever. All right, next we have savagery. These parameters control the level of savagery on the map. Raising the minimum savagery too high may make it impossible for certain races to exist, and similarly, lowering the maximum too far can make it impossible for certain creatures to exist. The largest chance of having unusable maps comes from a high savagery value. So, yeah, the maximum is 100. The minimum is 0. If you start raising the minimum and start lowering the maximum, it's going to make world generations harder to do. It's going to start resetting it so often, just because it's going to create too many monsters or not enough. So it's something, if you want to play around with it, it's something that you can do. But yeah. So, and this is also the XY variance, and we've talked about that, where that is it creates the patchworking the higher you go. So yeah. Next we have elevation mesh size, and this is for the terrain. So we'll describe what mesh sizes mean. Mesh size determines how many grid tiles there will be. Setting this to ignore will cause the weighted range settings to be ignored for that terrain characteristics. As an example, setting it to 2 by 2, like that. Setting it to 2 by 2 means the grid will be 2 times 2 tiles large, and there will be 3 times 3 for a total of 9 intersection points. On a pocket world, this means one grid tile will be 8 by 8 world tiles large, whereas whereas on a large world, one grid tile will be 128 by 128 world tiles. Note that is the highest possible value for a given world size. The default will always will make the grid tiles 8 by 8 world tiles large. So you can change this yourself, and yeah, all the way up to 6 and everything. if you don't know, just set it to ignore. Um, and the weighted ranges, if the mesh is set to something other than ignore, these weighted ranges will be applied to the excuse me. Oh yeah, will be applied um, of the selected mesh size for the purposes of generating random values in each range. This allows random number generations to be nonlinear for the given terrain characteristics. Alright, for example, if the elevation weighted range that we have here, uh, parameters were set to, starting with the 0 to 20, 60, if let's say we set this to, let's say we did this, 60, 10, 10, 10, and 10. Let's say we had that setting up, uh, and we had the 2 by 2 for the elevation mesh size. Oh, excuse me. These values do not have to add up to anything in particular, so don't worry about that. It's, as we saw, it's 0 to 1,000. It's not 80 to 100 and all that. So, the elevation min and max are set to 1 and 400. Ooh, excuse me. Oh, yeah, 1 and 400 respectively. So let's say we go back up to the elevation min and max, and it's 1 and 400. That's fine. With those parameters and everything, then about 60% of the grid line intersection points on average will be set to an elevation in the range of 1 to 80, which is 0 to 20%. And the other ranges will be represented by around 10% of the intersection points each. The exact distribution is still left up to chance. On average, it will be close to specification. Weighted ranges do not make rejection checks, so it doesn't check for rejection. It'll just create something. If anyone is interested in what this could mean, go to the Dwarf Fortress Wikipedia site. Go into their advanced World Gen link and everything, and there is actually a map of a 32 by 32 elevation mesh, which is, I think, a small world with weight set to 10001. So this would be 1 0 0 0 1. And that'd be 32 by 32. I know it says range 1 to 6, but you can pretty much do anything you want. So that would create a, we'll actually take a look at it. we'll set this up once we're all done. I'll show you what it looks like. It's quite a massive map. It's pretty cool. I do like it. There's a lot of small islands and everything, but it's really cool. So it's something you can play around with, and yeah. So I mean, the weighted range for 80 to 100, that's anything up between 80 elevation to 100 elevation. So we're gonna have more of that than, let's say, these middle ranges, and more of the 0 to 20. So that's more water areas and more mountainous areas, and not a lot of the in-betweens. So I'll show you what that looks like at the very end. All right. Again, with the rain, we discussed the mesh, and we discussed the weighted ranges and what that means. So the rain, just as we discussed before, the rain, drainage, savagery, all apply to the same thing. We're just going to skip through these right now. And temperature and volcanism, all describe those. So, yeah. All right, we have poles all the way from, we could do no poles, 0. 1 is north and south. 2 is north and or south, so it could be a possible of having one or the other or both. 3 is just north. 4 is just south. And 5 is north and south. Oh yes, north or south, so it could be north or south. So, I usually have, you can set it up to 5, you can set it up to whatever you want. If you don't want any poles, you want everything to just be sort of like middle of the map type thing, you could set it up to 0 and have no poles. Alright, next we have minimum mountain peak number. Ooh, I'm reaching my, I think we're going to let this run. I'm nearly done, I believe. Alright, so minimum mountain peak number. Wow. This will cause the world to be rejected if fewer than this many peaks are present on the map. So we just have it set to 1. So if there is no mountains at all, the world will be rejected. If we set this to the max 200, there needs to be 200 mountain peaks available. And in order to do something like that, that's when we need to go into the elevation range and really put a heavy weight on this. Set it to like 1,000, or set it to 1,000 or something like that, where it's all mountainous. That way you have just about everything as mountain peaks. Otherwise, it's going to cause the world to regenerate itself. And yeah, all right. Minimum partial edge oceans. The partial edge is how many oceans are touching the edge of the map. That's just the partial. So it's saying it needs a minimum of 1 ocean touching the edge of the map. Minimum complete edge oceans, and that's just the edge of the map. It's not covering the entire edge. The complete edge ocean is when it's touching the entire edge of the map. It has to be covering that entire edge. So it could be the east, north, west, or south edge, but it's covering that entire edge. There's not a single square of land in that area. And again, you can set this up to 4, where it's covering all 4 edges. So, you have the entire outside of the map is going to be an island, pretty much, because the entire outside of the map is covered in ocean. Alright. Next, we have the minimum volcano number. This one is my favorite. You can set it all the way up to 200, where if there's no, it doesn't set the amount of volcanoes, but it is these are all checks. And if there's less than 200 volcanoes, then it will regenerate a whole new world. Alright, mineral scarcity. And as you see in the hint there, it says low equals more minerals, which is true. You can set this the lowest this can be is 100. And that will give you, almost every other square will be a different mineral. You'll have iron, platinum, silver, everything in just about almost every square. So, having this you'll never run out of any kind of mineral. Setting this to the maximum, though, will result in close to no minerals at all throughout the entire world. So, yeah. And just as a comparison point, in the default world generation, when you go and you see the very rare, rare, sparse, frequent, everywhere, everywhere is represented by 100. Frequent is represented by 500. Sparse is represented by 200, or sorry, 2500. Frequent is 10,000, and sorry, 10,000 was rare. Very rare is 50,000. So that 50,000, that's only half of the maximum. So if 50,000 is very rare, 100,000 is close to no minerals at all in the entire world. So, yeah. So that's something that you could create a more difficult world with, or whatever you'd like. Alright, Max Mega Beast Caves. We're going to get into the different monsters and everything. This is the number of Mega Beasts placed at the beginning of history. So we have 7 Mega Beast Caves right now set. Mega Beasts are Hydras, Bronze Colossus, Rocks, Dragons, which are all placed in equal proportions. Increasing this value can lead to early extinction in many civilizations. So, you could have it set to all the way to 100,000, but it's going to mean that the world is going to be overrun by these mega beasts. All right, and the semi mega beasts caves are giants, ettins, minotaurs, cyclops, which are again placed in equal proportions. So we have 8. I think a good number, if you want a nice challenge, set it to 15 and 15, or even you could set it to 20. I mean, that's still a nice number. That's something I would do. After which we have Titan number. The Titan number is the amount of Titans in the world. This controls the amount of Titans that exist in the beginning of history. The number of forgotten beasts is unaffected by this parameter. So this is specifically Titans. So right now it's set to 2. You can set it all the way up to 1,000 Titans. That's going to result in mass extinction as well. Titan attack population requirement. You need to have 80. These 3 go hand in hand, so you need to have all 3 of these with a plus or with a check mark on them before you can have a Titan attack. Titan attack population requirement. You need to have 80 dwarves in your population before a Titan attack. You also need to have, this one is set to none, so there's no requirement here, but you could set the number low or high. Excuse me. Alright, and this is the exported wealth, and this is the created wealth. Created wealth is what you create. Exported wealth is how much you sell to others. So all 3 of these need to be, in fact, checked and available before you have a Titan attack. And that's when a Titan will enter your map and just wreck everything. The number of demon types. This right now it's set to 52. Alright, and demons are similar to Titans and Forgotten Beasts in that they are procedurally generated, but unlike Titans, they are not unique. Thus, many types of demons will exist in the world, and there are many different types of members to them. If you set this to 0, there will also be no goblins. Goblins are considered a type of demon, so um, just keep that in mind. So yeah, I mean there's a whole bunch of different demons out there. I'm not too sure what exactly, um, how many there are, but the demon types will also mean how many demon types there are in the underworld. So if you have this set to 0, meaning it means that you can go down to the underworld without any, you can open up the underworld, the pits to hell, without any complications at all. There will be no mobs down there at all, no demons, nothing. So it might be a cool way to explore the depths of hell, just offhand, just dig straight down, and yeah. But you know, I like having a little variety. Next, we have the night troll types. This is the different number of night trolls that will generate or exist in the world. And night trolls are they're supernatural monsters. They like to kidnap different beings and stuff. Um, let's see. I'm trying to see if I can get something on what they are. Uh, I, I've never, yeah, I've never actually come across one. But yeah, they're different trolls and whatnot that will appear in your world. Um, I suppose that yeah. Um, but so you can set this low or high. These are all the default values for them. Next are boogeyman types, and boogeymen. You don't really get boogeyman that much in Dwarf Fortress mode. You get it more so in adventure mode. And boogeymen are the night creatures which attack you if you're all by yourself in adventure mode. So you could have this set to 0 with be no boogeyman at all, or you could set it up to insanely high where you could be traveling around at dusk and there'll be boogeyman. Vampire curse types. That's the different types of vampires that will exist in the world. Um, so I mean, I think that's just yeah. There's different types of vampirisms that can exist. There are also night creatures. They have forsaken their gods. They drink blood. Blah blah blah. Um, but they could be anything. They could be goblin, elf. Anything can be affected by the vampire curse. Same thing with the werebeast. Werebeast is where they go feral and they, yeah. So yeah, you can set those to whatever you like. Werebeasts are werebeasts, like were ants, werewolves, stuff like that. Yeah, I've seen a were ant. Go figure. That ant, I swear, it wrecked me. Next is the secret types, and secret types are, you know, they're secret. No, if you set this as 0 though, I can guarantee you there will be no necromancers, no towers in your world. So secret types are, possibly the undead, necromancers, stuff like that. You could set it to 1,000, whatever. Next, we have number of regional interaction types, And the regional interaction types are the number of interactions that can be caused in regions, which may incorporate evil rain and different cloud types. So this is like, as I just said, the evil rain, evil clouds, or I've seen tentacles and stuff like that. So this is all you could have it in what is that called? In mirthful areas too, where yeah, stuff like that. But having excuse me, a higher number of this will result in more different types of these evil clouds and stuff like that, and rains and whatever. All right, disturbance interaction types. This is the number of disturbed dead that exist in the world. Setting to 0, while as pointless as will be, uh, will most likely prevent any toilet roll spooks from appearing. But it will also prevent the existence of pyramids, which house them too. So, if you set this to 0, there will be no undead, no, yeah. And that could be, if you're going into adventure mode, that could be a real hindrance, because there's different tombs, there's different pyramids that house things. Alright, here we are. The number of evil cloud types and number of evil rain types. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Alright, next we have generate divine materials. And divine materials are different metals. Hold on, I'll pull that up real quick. Oh boy. Alright. Yeah, it's just, if you want to generate divine metals or not. Divine metals being, I think that's not too sure. I think that's like special types of metals that are created in not that you can create, or not that you can find while playing Dwarf Fortress. It's more for those who are playing adventure mode. Next, we have desired good square count in small sub-regions. Good square, good square, good square, evil square, evil square, evil square. The desired good / evil square counts. These will result in the change of the amount of good or evil tiles on the map. So, yeah. Um, so yeah, the larger amount that you have, the more squares that will be accounted for that specific type of, medium subregion, large subregion, good, evil, etc. Alright, next we have the minimum initial wetland square count and the minimum initial wetland region count. Alright, we have square count, region count, and final count. Alright, let's see. The square count, this is the minimum number of squares of the given biome that must exist before things like erosion take place. So right now we have it set to the minimum square count. 1032 squares must exist before anything like erosion takes place, before water can start wetting it down. And the region count, this is the minimum number of regions of continuous biome squares that must exist before other processes such as corrosion take place. So right now that one is set to 7. So 7 squares of this 1032, there must be 7 squares connected to each other before anything like erosion can take place. So we have 7 squares connected. Erosion can take place within those 7 squares. Next is the final count, and this is this many regions of the given biome must exist after erosion, and similar phases of generation have been completed. Oh, excuse me. Alright, so the final count after erosion has set into place for these two. The final output of everything, 6 regions, 6 out of these 7 regions must exist after the erosion. So erosion can completely wipe out one entire region, but there needs to be, yeah. So yeah, this is something that you could play with. The higher the number of the initial will result in more squares of that. So right now there are going to be more forests than anything else, and more mountain ranges, and more oceans than anything else. We have glacier counts, tundra, grasslands. Right now this is all set to none. So, you know, yeah. Just as an example, this 8,000 some would be like a small pocket size. Well, small. It'd be close to I want to say 100 by 100 square count. Not exactly that much. It'll be scattered, but it'll be close to that. Alrighty. So yeah, we have hills, grasslands. So you can go and actually create the different biomes you want. And yeah, how big those biomes are too. Next is the erosion cycle count. This tells the world generator how long the world has to erode its tall peaks down to the mountainsides during running rivers, sledge of world or stage of world generation. The higher the number, the less jagged the world will be. So the higher the number this is, right now it's about normal, it's about average. If we set this to 0, there's going to be close to no erosion at all. Actually, there will be no erosion at all, which will kind of put a hindrance in all these erosion final counts, because it is expecting at least some erosion, but it really won't at the same time. It's expecting it, but if it doesn't happen, it's fine. But the higher the number, like if we set it to 1,000, all the mountain ranges will be nice and smooth. It'll be just giant hills, and there won't be so many mountain peaks. So yeah. Next we have minimum river start locations, pre-erosion and post-erosion. The minimum desired river start locations. This is the number, the minimum number of river heads that must exist before and after erosions take place. The worlds will be rejected. Oh, excuse me. I need a cup of coffee or something. The worlds will be rejected if they fail to meet these numbers. As with the minimum biome counts, raising this number doesn't automatically create this many riverheads. This is just a check. So, we want 400 pre and post river head locations. So, yeah, this doesn't change the amount of rivers that we want. I think that was previously in here. It was earlier on. Next we have periodically erode extreme cliffs, if enabled, and this is enabled, which it is as default, makes every impassable rock wall into a series of ramps. Some prefer to pump up erosion to 250 and then turn off the desired pre-erosion river count to 0 for good erosion, and no extra canyons. Alright, so yeah, normally this is set to yes. Alright, next we have dew orographic precipitation and rain shadows. Toggle this, or toggle that allows terrain height to affect rainfall. For example, most air coming from the ocean blows over the land. As the terrain gets higher, it forces most air up, causing it to rain on the seaward side of the mountain. So this is really getting intense with this. So eventually all the rain has fallen if the mountain is tall enough, so when the breeze goes over the mountain and there's no moisture left to fall on the other side, creating a rain shadow. In the current version, regions where drainage is above 50 will also create rain shadows regardless of the underlying biome and elevation. The rain shadows will always be created as if the wind is blowing east to west. Toggling this on should create a tendency for more extreme rainfall in regions, creating more forests, deserts, marshlands. So keeping this on will actually help generate your world. Turning this off will result in more controllable, less complex rainfall conditions based on rainfall parameters. So you can control the rain a lot more and with it off. But you would have to really set up the weather for it. Yeah, so unless you know what you're doing. Next is the maximum number of subregions. This is the number of separate biomes that are allowed to exist on the entire map. So right now we have, almost 3,000 different subregions. So the higher the number, the more subregions there will be. The lower the number, and the more giant regions you will have. So you'll have like more mountain ranges, more oceans, more deserts and stuff like that, all like giant. Having this number higher will result in that in more scattered out subregions of those. So right now it's set to 2750, which is it's about an average number. All right, cavern layer number. This is the Y number and everything. What is that? The depth. Yeah, the cavern layer depth. This parameter determines how many cavern systems will be generated, not including the magma layer. So we have it set to 3, so it's going to create 3 cavern layers, 3 being the max. Next is cavern layer openness min and max. Just as an FYI, if you disable this number and set to 0, will make it impossible to grow any underground plants, as none will exist in your population. So keep that in mind. It'll just all be rock underneath. Alright, next is the openness min. Alright, if you have it the min and max, 0 and 100. We all know what min and max is. That's the scale of 0 to 100. Openness is how, when you go into a cavern, sometimes there's only a 1x1 little walkway that you can go through, and not as much openness to it, if you catch my drift. If you set this all the way to 100, the cavern will be completely open, and you know, you'll be able to see everything. You won't have to dig out the walls and everything like that, and it's not gonna be like a maze through the underground cavern. It's gonna be completely open if you set this value to 100. Personally, I'd like to set it to like 20. That way, you don't get those scattered little labyrinth mazes and everything. The next is the passage density. This determines how many passages form the cavern. So if you this is set the 0 to 100. Excuse me. If openness is set to minimum and density increased, then you will get a maze-like network of small crisscrossing passages. Raising the value further increases the number of maze-like passages for the passage density. So you could set this value down and have a lot more maze-like passages, or you could just completely open the entire cavern up by setting it to 100 by 100, and that just creates almost like an aquifer type thing, but without water. Cavern layer water min determines how many caverns will have water at the bottom. Note that even at 100, there will be some amount of ground in caverns, but each bubble will contain some amount of water. At 0, there will be no water, and 100 will be flooded. But you'll still have some, yeah. Alright, next is the magma layer. Do you want it or not? Bottom layer forces magma. Alright, good. We're getting to the end. Alright, wow, that was an hour. Alright, magma layer. This parameter controls if you want magma. Bottom layer determines the space below the magma sea exists. If yes, then HFS or hell will always be present. Normally you want to set this to yes for maximum fun. If enabled, this will force magma layer above it. So yeah, and there could be a temple underneath if you set this to yes, a hell temple, so to speak. Alright, next we have Z layers above ground. That's how many layers above ground, like above the top most part of your ground, there are. So we have it set to 15. With that, birds can fly all the way up there. You can build all the way up to 15 levels above your ground. Yeah, you can create different things, like create a tower going 15 levels up, and then create a drop off where you just drop off prisoners off that tower and they just fall to their death below. I've done that before. Alright, Z levels above 1 or layer 1. This is the Z levels of stone above the first cavern layer. Making this higher will guarantee at least this many levels to build your fortress, but you will have no impact of how many Z levels thick it will be. Alright, so layer 2 is the second cavern, layer 3 is the third cavern. Layer 4, what I usually like doing, I will set this I think it was set to 5. You have this is the amount of rock. It's not the amount of layers below ground. So it's not going to be 5 layers underground. No. It's going to be 5 layers once you hit solid rock. So after you go through your soil, your clay, your sand, whatever it is, and you just hit rock, 5 layers below that rock, that's when you're going to hit your first cave. Next is the Z levels for level 2. This is the first not first cavern. This is the second cavern. This would be the third. This would be the fourth cavern. Oh, not fourth cavern. I'm sorry. This would be the Magma Sea. My God. All right, and this one here it's uncertain. It may control the number of semi-molten rocks between Hell and Magma. It's sort of undetermined right now. And at bottom is what do we have this set for? 1. This is the number of levels above the Hell chamber. So above Hell. Yeah. It often has no impact and everything, so I wouldn't worry about that. Minimum natural cave size. Alright, minimum natural cave size. This parameter appears to control the length and depth of caves. So we have minimum and maximum natural cave size. 5 being minimum, 25 being maximum right now. That's scattered caves. If you set it to 500, 500, that's going to be an entire opening of cave underneath. Number of mountain caves, 100. Ooh, hold on. Number of mountain caves. There's number of caves that will be generated. Lurking kobolds set up shop in caves. So if you want a lot of kobolds, set this up higher. And there'll be a lot more kobolds that will appear. And they're just nuisances. Non-mountain caves would just be like... oh, that's not a layer. Okay. Well, both of these would be kobolds, so setting both of these to 800 would mean there would be a lot more kobolds in the world. So we're going to set this to 400 and 400. Make caves visible. It's no as a default. As you explore it, you'll see it. If set to yes, caves will appear on the map as a little dot symbol, so that they may be sought out to be avoided or as desired. So you can see where you can see all this in the Legends viewer as well. So that's up to you if you want to make the Kobold caves visible or not. Allow initial embark options to show tunnels. Apparently this doesn't do anything. 0 is no, 1 is only in Finder, and 2 is always. I've never understood that before. Alright, next we have number of civilizations. This number of civilizations placed on the map before history generation begins, so that's going to be 40. Playable civilization required. Yes, there needs to be a playable civilization in order for the world gen to be completed. Minimum number of mid-elevation squares, low and high. There need to be 10 squares. You know, there needs to be a certain requirement for mid-elevation squares, or mid-squares, low squares, and high squares. All for elevation, rain, drainage, savagery, volcanism. So, yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory right there. And from there, I believe we're done. That was it. So we're gonna hit escape for done. I'm gonna hit F6 to save that into this one. We're gonna change the title to custom, and we're gonna hit enter. And my God, look at that. All right. This is definitely the Enchanted Planet. All right. Well, that was pretty much that. I think that was because we were messing with the different regions and everything and different parameters. As you can see, it could go completely astray, and I believe it crashed. So we're gonna end it there. Thank you all for watching. Actually, okay, good. I thought my computer crashed. Thank you all for watching. This has been Ponnampi Fun Games from a Funny Guy. I hope this little tutorial, this little introduction to the Advanced World Gen was helpful. Again, I would like to thank Dwarf Fortress Wikipedia.org. I'll put a link of it into the description and everything for making this tutorial possible and everything. Alright, thank you all for watching. Goodbye.